Good evening and welcome once again to the Marty Heiser Show. You know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of political stuff going on. There's a lot of, anger and unpleasantness in the world right now. But, we're going to take the next half hour and we're going to take a look at an organization called Fairy Tale Theaters. And this is an organization that essentially caters to young people, the ages 7 through 15. And they're going to tell a little bit about how they're introducing young people to the theater, both musicals and just normal plays. And we're going to meet some of these young budding stars. You'll want to remember their name, because when they're rich and famous and in those Hollywood magazines, you'll say, I knew that kid when he appeared on the Marty Heiser Show. But we're just going to have a time this evening to look at Fairy Tale Theater. After that, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have a roundtable discussion with Larry Ditkoff and Professor Jim Bolano, and we'll get into the whole nonsense that's going on. But right now, when I consider why I live in Connecticut, it's because of organizations like this, the Fairy Tale Theaters, that avail themselves the opportunity not only for a family to go out, and I know this is non-commercial radio, so I'm not going to get into how inexpensive it really is to spend an evening right out there at Worcester School?
At Worcester School?
Worcester School.
It's a morning.
It's a morning. It's a morning. Okay, but we're going to go into how you can take a whole family out there. It's not just passive entertainment. The kids actually get to participate in the shows, and we're going to talk a lot about that. Then we're going to take a break, and we'll have all that nonsense political talk. But as we start, I'd just like to introduce Elise Jasensky. Thank you so much for helping me. And you are the director of Fairy Tale Theaters.
Correct.
And it's been in existence since 1999.
Right.
And you've been there since the beginning.
I have.
And what made you get involved in this theater?
Well, we had a discussion about the fact that there was very little offering for young children, either to be in the show or to watch the show. Mm-hmm. So we decided we would kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. We would have children be in the show presenting shows for children. So that's why we call ourselves Theater for Children by Children.
All right. And there was sort of an outgrowth of another organization called Musical at Richter.
That's correct.
And that was the longest running outdoor theater in Connecticut.
That's correct. Yes.
Started in 1985. Right. And they put on such productions as Kiss Me Kate, Annie, Camelot, Godspell, Hello Dolly, Damn Yankee, Fiddler on the Roof, Oliver, Titanic, My Fair Lady, The King and I, Oklahoma, and right now, check your local listings, you can see them in Brigadoon.
That's correct.
And my understanding is that the young man next to you, Evan Smolin, among your other credits, you're involved with the youth theater, but you also have a part in Brigadoon. Is that right?
No, Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh, Bye Bye Birdie.
Which was the next production after Brigadoon.
I almost had it right. Okay, Evan, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in this youth theater and what you like about it.
Well, my brother had Mrs. J for a second grade teacher.
Ooh.
And that's how he got involved in Fairy Tale Theater as the sound assistant. And as soon as I could go to the Fairy Tale Theater shows, I went. And I never missed one performance.
In the audience.
Okay.
In the audience. And I really wanted to get up on stage and do it myself. Okay. So I waited and waited until an audition came up. Mm-hmm. And then I just auditioned and said, I want to go on, and I got it.
And at the ripe old age of, what are you,
11.
17, 18? Oh, you're 11. 11, okay. And how many of these productions have you been in?
Oh, wow. I've been in 3 years of Fairy Tale Theater.
Is that right?
This is my 3rd year right now.
Evan, let's just talk kind of man-to-man here, okay? Because what people say about your generation is that you only spend time in video games and playing Xbox and sit on the couch and you don't get out and participate. What's your motivation?
My motivation is to go out there and have a good time and entertain an audience for the night that they all come to see the shows. Or the morning in Fairy Tale Theater's case. I like to go out there and entertain all these little kids and help and get them to believe in this fairy tale that's getting put on right before their eyes.
Right. Now, the show that you have going on right now, I had it right here, is Rasputin
Rapunzel.
and, oh, I'm sorry, Rapunzel and the Peddler, and then Caps for Sale.
Well, Rapunzel is one show. Probably a lot of kids have seen the recent Disney film Tangled, but we are doing the original version, which is Rapunzel. And then separately...
Does that have something to do with hair, like let down your hair?
Yes.
And
Yes.
And the witch climbs up it, and he climbs up it as the prince.
You climb up?
He's the
Yes, I'm the prince.
Yes.
Wow.
I get pulled up the tower. I get thrown out of the tower.
Really? I mean, are there some sort of like acrobatic cables that are attached
No,
to
we just stand on the ground and sort of pantomime it going up
so
the
basically, you do your own stunts. There isn't a stunt double that's
No.
paid money
No.
that looks like you.
We just do the whole thing on our own.
Really? All right.
And part of our thrust is that we want to keep it very simple. So we don't have big sets and big props. So frankly, we'll just have a probably 2-foot high symbolization of the tower that Rapunzel is in. And then, as he says, he pantomimes climbing it. We do have the hair, but he pantomimes climbing up the hair and into the tower. And the kids accept it completely. They totally understand. And then our second show on Saturday after intermission will be, it's called The Peddler, but most people know it as Caps for Sale. It's an old story. And has a lot of monkeys in it. And the phrase monkey see, monkey do is what happens in that story, and we'll have the entire audience being the monkeys, copying what the monkeys on stage are doing.
Okay.
So.
Well, this is all now. Evan, when guys like your friends, they're out skateboarding, they're playing video games. If you said, "Hey, let's go to this play," if they're younger, they might say, "Hey, that doesn't sound like that much fun." But what I understand from your performances is it's not just passively sitting there watching the play, but you talk about how you actually have they get to meet Mother Goose. They can do show-related craft activities, birthday celebrations, weekly trivia contests, as well as audience participation.
Yes.
What does that look like?
Well, we have a craft that goes with each show.
Right.
That the kids can make for themselves and keep. And Mother Goose goes around before each show and during intermission and gives each kid a little treat that has to do with the show. And at intermission, we do birthday treats, and all the kids get a little candy.
So as an actor in the performance, you're actually interacting with some of these kids that come up on stage.
Yes, we call them up on stage to dance with us, or do things with us, or play musical instruments, march around in an army.
Wow.
Mix up a magical potion, they do everything.
Just out of curiosity, when you were younger, a really, really young kid, when you would go to these performances, were you one of those kids that would go up on stage and participate?
No, I wasn't really that kid. I didn't like going up on stage, but I always went up for birthdays. I always did that. I said to Mom, "Can I go up and get the candy for my birthday?" I always did that when I was little.
And we should explain with our birthdays that if a child were to come to all 4 of our performances in July, he or she would definitely celebrate his or her birthday, because we do 3 months at a time. So, for example, last week we did January, February, March, and this week we'll be doing the next 3 months.
Wow.
So.
Very good. Okay, I want to have also joined by the Gardner family. Ann, Mrs. Gardner, Neil, Mr. Gardner, and the pretty young Sarah Gardner. Now, you too have been involved in the fairy tale theater. My understanding is you're quite the veteran now, because it's only ages 7 through 15. Yes. But how did you start getting involved in this?
My dad used to take me to shows when I was younger, and you were saying, did you ever go up and participate? I was called on. Okay. I didn't go up, but I was called on to participate.
See, the initial stage fright has somehow been, overtaken by...
But no, I mean, when my mom asked me if I wanted to audition, I immediately jumped at the idea, and I auditioned, and I made it, and it was a really great decision, because it's just such a great group to be involved in.
Really? So you've sort of found a little bit of your identity? Are these your friends that you socialize with? And
Definitely,
this is
yes. I mean, in the mornings when I know I have fairy tale theater rehearsal, that afternoon, I'm never dreading it because I always know that I'm gonna have a good time when I get there.
You're not scared. You don't get the butterflies.
No, not at all. Because you mean Elise makes us feel so comfortable too, so there's no reason to feel like that.
We say if it's not fun, don't do it. So.
And it is a lot of fun, so there's every reason to do it.
All right. Now, are you going on now in high school and
Yeah,
older? Are you planning to pursue theater there as well?
Definitely, yes, definitely. I love doing it. I don't know if I'll do it when I'm in college necessarily, but it's so much fun to do local theater and things like that.
Great. All right, Mom, Dad, what do we think of all this? I mean, is this something that we talked about being a stage mom, and you assured me you were not. So when I watch on Discovery TV the little baby and tiaras,
toddlers and tiaras.
Toddlers and tiaras, I'm like, oh, and they're like spraying them down. Did you get sprayed with like tan in a can or anything like that?
Have you seen
No. No.
Nothing like that. Oh, yeah.
No.
So, Mom, Dad, what do you think of your daughter's involvement in this? Are you delighted? Is this something she's off on? Or?
I love that she's involved in it. I'm not a stage mom in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Having said that, my husband and I did meet through theatre. Many years ago. But no, I love that she does it. It's something she's always enjoyed, and there's a lot of camaraderie between both the actors and the parents. I think everybody has fun.
Excellent. Well, let me, oh, yeah, at a half hour, we'll do that. Okay, so when your daughter first, so you were involved in theater yourself, you're saying when you were going to university or thereafter? Or?
We did, actually, we met through, we did Godspell together. And that's how we met many years ago, yes. Which actually, Neil and Elise have been in a local production of Godspell a number of years ago as well.
Locally, that's with the musicals at Richter?
With another group, but
another group, yeah.
I also did Godspell at Richter, so.
There seems to be a lot of cross-pollination between the two groups.
Yes.
It was an outgrowth. Is it kind of like the farm team for, the bigger one, or not necessarily?
No, I would say we operate completely separately because what our goal is different. However, we support each other greatly. I mean, at my performances for Fairy Tale, we always give a nod to Musicals at Richter for being our sponsoring organization, but also we like to promote their shows. But at their shows, they also announce that Fairy Tale Theater is doing what show we're doing. So we support each other completely.
Excellent. The one thing I think, somehow, you guys will understand when you're married and have kids of your own, but the idea is that there's a certain amount of Western culture that comes through, like Shakespeare and some of these plays and these performances. Even if you take a play like Fiddler on the Roof, you get a little bit of understanding about the Jewish family and what the rabbi means, and it's as it's acted out. Camelot, My Fair Lady, Oliver. You learn a little bit about, when was that done? Like turn of the century London or something like that?
Yeah,
when
even a little bit further back, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you get to learn a little bit about that. Do you appreciate that when you're doing plays?
Yes, I do learn things from the plays about like what things were like in the past, and how people were.
And I think it's important to note that while we all love the Disney versions, I watched them, my children watched them, you probably all watched them. Yeah. We at Fairy Tale Theater are trying very hard to get back to the original versions of these fairy tales, because fairy tales were begun in an oral tradition and nobody wrote them down originally. Then 5 people wrote down their version of it. So it's really hard to get back to the roots of where it came from, but that's what we try to do. We've had people offer, say, we'd love to write you a show, and we say, thank you, but there are other venues for that. What we're trying to do is keep that in our culture because it's disappearing.
Sometimes those fairy tales can be pretty gruesome. Especially the Germans. I mean, what's up with the Germans?
That's true.
You have like kids in cages getting fattened up so they can be eaten, and then you got
Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah,
Grimm. But we tried to do them with a sense of humor.
Yes.
We try not to change the
Children
story.
eating can be so funny sometimes. It's properly presented. No, I'm kidding.
Well, We have done Hansel and Gretel, and they do, they do get into a cage and get fattened up. But what we do is we treat the witch with humor. The evil person becomes the humor in the show, as opposed to being the feared character.
Okay.
So I don't, as I say, I don't change the story, but we get rid of anything that would be violent or blood and gutsy.
Okay.
So.
All right. Neil, do you have any other children, or is it?
Yeah, we have a 12-year-old.
12-year-old? Boy, girl?
Boy.
Any interest in?
He's a sporty guy, not yet up on stage. I'm not sure if he'll go down that road or not, but he's doing fine. But great to see. I mean, we've seen Sarah go through 8 years, and it's terrific. Great group of parents, great camaraderie, and just a fun time for the family on a Saturday. Very good.
I can only imagine. Yeah, as far as people, families coming to the show. When I did a little bit of research on that, I was struck by the fact that, as we mentioned, it isn't just sitting there passively and trying to get through a Broadway play down in the city or something like that. But this is bring your blanket, bring your lawn chair, and the kids actually get to participate of it, and hopefully gain a little bit of love for the theater and maybe, strike a spark.
It's often a child's first exposure to theater, and the reason it works so well is because we are outside, and so children don't have to sit in a seat, and they don't have to be quiet. As a matter of fact, we're very often asking them to yell things with us, and if they need to get up and move around, they get up and move around. I do want to say one thing, is that something new for us this year is that we are now a Rain or Shine organization, because the wonderful folks at Worcester School, where we perform, who have always offered us their venue free and clear, have also offered us now the opportunity to move indoors in inclement weather.
Okay,
so now we don't have to watch the weather report all week long going, please don't rain, please don't rain. Although I will say in 14 years we've only ever canceled one performance due to rain. We did have to move one inside in the middle of a performance.
Really?
Yes, and some of those pictures are on that board.
Is there any way you could have incorporated like the lightning into the show, like Rapunzel, let down your hair, something like that?
It was pretty much run for the hills, and I as much as I could, corralled the audience to come inside the building, and we thought we would wait it out. And then one of the actors, one of the kids said to me, he said, "No, we're not going to wait. We're going to do it in the cafeteria."
There you go.
And we went in, we pushed tables out of the way, and the audience so enjoyed the fact that we kept going for
the
them.
show must go on.
That's exactly right.
All right.
So.
Well, we've got some pictures here. Frank, we can get a close-up on this. Maybe I'll hold it up here and then we'll point. And then, Evan, you're going to tell us what we're looking at.
Okay.
And I understand that Sarah, always the shrinking violet, is in one of these pictures, which I think we're going to see.
Oh yes, Sarah is in plenty of pictures.
I've been here long enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm sensing. Now, Neil and Ann, is an interest in the theater something that Sarah's had ever since she was a little kid? What would you say?
Well, I actually think one of the first performances Sarah saw may have been Godspell in town, which I actually performed with Elise. So,
Wow, Godspell.
Yeah.
I actually think it was, and that was kind of the thing, the bug, wasn't it? And
Yeah, that was.
Isn't that an interesting thing that we all
It
have
is.
some connection to
Yeah,
Godspell?
we all have some connection
Because
to
Evan
Godspell.
just did it on
I've
Broadway.
done it twice. I did it at Richter, and I just got off of it in May for one night on Broadway.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow, very good, very good. All right, we're going to go through some of these pictures here, and I want you to, basically, I'm going to hold it steady, right like this. Okay, now, right here, if we can get a close-up, who is that lying across the group
That's
right there?
Sarah, right there.
That's Sarah. Oh, good. We get a close-up of that. That's wonderful. Sarah, what overtook you to dive in front like that? And
That's a very good question. It was actually the photographer. I was the last person standing.
Okay.
And I was joking around. I was like, "Oh, do you want me to just lie across?" And he's like, "Yes, I
He
want
said,
you to
yes,
lie
that would be a
across."
good idea.
we got Sarah Gardner, the actress, on there. Okay, now we're going to go to some of these other ones. What are we looking at here in the upper corner there?
Well, this is the shoemaker and his elves. The elves and the shoemaker.
This is
Okay.
the one we had to move.
Yeah, we
inside
had to
for in the
move
middle.
this
Very
one
good.
inside.
One thing on your website, too, I love the costumes. They seem to be very well put together. Okay.
They're all from Mother Goose. They're all from Mrs. J.
I'm sensing she's like the alpha female of
Oh
this
yeah,
outfit.
she's
what I'm
director,
saying.
costumer, Mother Goose,
All right.
choreographer.
All right.
She's everything.
All right, excellent.
Right
excellent.
there is
Quite a-
still the Jungle Book. Right here is Little Red Riding Hood.
Okay.
Again, moved inside. That was the same day.
Again, there's that, you know, wonderful storyline about wolves eating little girls. You know,
Yes,
that's,
and we don't actually have like the wolf and all the prosthetics and
Yeah.
the snout. We have him in a coat and a hat.
yeah.
It's basically
good
a
because-
symbolic thing.
There you go. It's
Now
a symbolism.
that one there is Little Red Riding Hood before we had to move inside.
Okay, okay.
Outside.
All right. All right, and we'll keep going down on some of these. Let's see here. I'll move up. What's this next
That
one
is
here?
still
Still
Little Red Riding Hood.
Okay, and then
That,
at the bottom
this is,
it's
the whole bottom row is all the Velveteen Rabbit.
No, this
The
is
Velveteen
actually,
Rabbit,
that's
okay.
actually Princess and the Frog at the bottom.
Oh, is
Okay.
it?
Yes.
To the right is Princess and the Frog.
Yes.
okay. So we're going to move on the bottom row once they get to it, and go from there. All right. Well, let's get down to brass
Okay, yes,
tacks
so
here.
that's
Yeah,
Princess and... No, it looks like Velveteen Rabbit.
Okay.
No, because I was a princess in it.
And then this next one.
Yeah, this is Velveteen Rabbit. That's
Velveteen
Velveteen Rabbit.
That's basically a rabbit that's loved so much that it finally comes alive.
Becomes
Is
Yes.
that right? Okay.
Yes.
I like that one. I mean, I have a golf club like that. I like it so much. That
That show was actually pretty funny because I was Andrew the boy, and
Right.
there was one point where I was supposed to get sick with a really bad fever.
okay.
And it was so hot that day
Yes.
that as I was supposed to get more feverish, my
Yes.
face got redder,
Jeez.
and it worked out just perfectly.
That is unbelievable. That is wonderful, Evan. I think you were made for the theater. I think you got a knack for this. I think you should continue to pursue it. All right, but if we can put up the website too. Hopefully they have the website of where people can get more information. But let's get down to brass tacks in a non-commercial, public access, cable television kind of way. Well, there we go. If you're interested, you can call that number. And when is this production going on right now?
Well, we do every Saturday in July. So last week was our first Saturday.
Okay.
This week, as we said, will be Rapunzel and a separate production of The Peddler.
Okay.
Following that is The Pied Piper, and then our final one on the 28th will be Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. All performances start around 10:30, where the children start to meet me as Mother Goose, and as Evan mentioned before, I always have a little gift for each child. At the same time, the craft activity is going on, our concession stand is open, the playground is available, and then our show begins at 11 o'clock.
Okay. All right, this is the lightning round. I'm going to start with Ann. Can I call you Ann or Mrs. Gardner? Ann's okay?
You can call me Ann.
All right,
Yes.
Ann. We're going to go down the line, and I want you to just tell me two things that you really appreciate about family, or rather fairy tale theater, and what it's meant to you. Go ahead. We're coming down the line.
Two
Go ahead.
things. Okay.
Two things.
The enjoyment that Sarah's got out of it is the first one, and just the fun, the overall fun that we've all had these 8 years that we've been involved in it now.
When Sarah's doing a show, does she sing into the comb, looking in the mirror on some of the shows? Do you find that in your family?
I called her the other day in the basement, blaring out some sort of song. She said, "Oh, you weren't supposed to hear that."
Yeah. There you go. You'll understand when you have kids of your own, you're always delighted to see them find their passion. You know, whether it's the theater, whatever interest, it really you'll see. You'll have kids someday. All right, Neil. What are two things you really?
I'll give a plug for the parents, because I think it's a good bunch of parents, and the arts and crafts and the concessions and the parking, and it's a group thing. We all chip in, and that's how that all gets done. And I think the second thing is giving back to the community. I think it's a great community thing to do. I mean, there's an audience, average audience of 100 plus.
Wow, that's
and
big.
It's terrific. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow,
I mean,
that's pretty good.
so it gets great attendance. We do with more people, but we get great attendance.
That's
So,
great. That's
yeah.
great. And it's every Saturday morning. What
In
time?
July, 10:30.
10:30 start.
10:30. The
11.
show starts at 11, but I start at 10:30.
Okay, so 10:30-ish at Worcester
Worcester
School.
School.
If they just drive to the school, you can't miss it.
You can't miss it.
Okay, 10:30, July 14th, 21st, and the 28th. Okay, you got right down the line. What are two things you love about this whole thing?
Being involved with such a great group of people, because like I was saying, it's just so much fun. And also seeing the smiles on the kids' faces when we finished, I came out of getting changed out of my costume last week, and the assistant director, Dr. Kessler, came up to me and said, "You have a fan in the audience, so you got to meet the kids," and you know, you kind of feel
Ask
like
for an autograph? Anyone want an autograph?
sometimes, like
Sometimes
Snow
they
White
do.
last year.
They do.
Haven't
Yeah.
you signed some autographs?
Not yet.
You can't
With
do
time,
anything
with
at age 11, Evan. You gotta, you know, save a little bit.
But yeah, no, it's just awesome having these fans in the audience, and you just feel so special and everything like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Evan?
Well, like Sarah said, I love the cast and the community that all chips in to put this all together. And I love being able to portray all of these different characters that aren't always exactly you. You can like take this character and sort of do things with it. Like last week I was Jafar in Aladdin, and instead of making him like this menacing, evil vulture, evil magician,
Yes.
I made him evil but slightly comical magician.
I see. All right. So you get to kind of work with the characters, and now you're not an overbearing star, are you? Messing up the script and everything, are you? Or are you easy to work
No,
with?
he adds to the script.
Yes, we sometimes add little things.
All right. Well, that's great. Listen, I've enjoyed, you know, getting to know you. And then we're going to close with you. What do you appreciate about this, and what are you hoping for the next 10 years?
I have done everything in my life associated with children. My profession is as a teacher, and I've done daycare and everything with children. So I really appreciate the opportunity to work with the most wonderful bunch of kids you could imagine in a society that always says the kids are doing nothing and they do nothing good, and it's so not true. And the other thing that I enjoy is being the first experience for kids in theater and seeing their enjoyment and seeing them come back day after day, year after year. We have kids in the audience now who have been there 6, 7 years, and they keep coming. So I'm really proud to be the sponsor of that.
Fairy Tale Theater, I want to thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you sharing it. And it's every Saturday morning at 10:30 in July, July 14th, 21st, 28th. You see the website there. Just Google it. I guarantee you it will be fun for the whole family. Bring the youngsters out. Believe me, they won't be bored. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to we're going to go from the highs of theater and virtue into the valley of political politics. So you want to stay tuned? We'll be right back. Thanks a lot.
In this state, there are no extras, no fluff, no frills, no free lunch, no second helpings, no streets paved with gold, no promise, no certainty. In this state, life is a bitter struggle to survive with the least. It's home to 1 out of every 11 families in America. It's home to 1 out of every 6 children in America. It's home to more than 32 million people. It's the state of American poverty. And if you were poor, you'd be home by now.
Why is it you two have so much trouble communicating?
I don't like the way he talks to me. He doesn't have to use that kind of language.
All I said was that you had a big osteo fight. Oh, okay, well, what about the secrets you kept from me?
Oh, so I didn't tell you about my drug allergies. Big deal.
That could have been nasty.
Ooh. Okay. So how come I always have to go to your place?
I'd be happy to come to you, Judith. I can't fit the X-ray machine in my car. How's your shoulder doing, anyway?
Fine.
Yeah?
I worked up to 3-pound dumbbells yesterday.
Really? Huh. Just 3 weeks after surgery. That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Communication is the best medicine. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
Well, now we're getting somewhere. Group hug.
Hi, I'm Major Samantha Weeks. I get to live my dream every day of being an Air Force fighter pilot and flying the most advanced aircraft in the world. Before I could ever climb into the Thunderbird F-16, I had to prove my flying skills through intense training, hard work, and determination. The road to my goal was long and challenging, but the reward is out of sight. You too can live your dream and accomplish anything when you set your mind to it.
I thought indoor tanning was safe. They said their tanning rays were less likely to cause a sunburn.
What you need to know is UV light from indoor tanning can cause
premature aging, including wrinkles, sagging, and age spots.
So instead of making you look cool, it can make you look old.
And even worse, UV light can increase your risk of skin cancer, including melanoma, the deadliest form of skin cancer.
Especially when exposed at an early age.
And treatment can be surgery, and sometimes even chemotherapy and radiation.
In fact, current estimates are that 1 in 5 Americans develop skin cancer.
And 1 person dies from melanoma about every hour.
I don't want to be one of them.
I don't want to be one of them.
I don't want to be one of them.
This message brought to you by the American Academy of Dermatology.
I'm telling you, indoor tanning is not as safe as you think. In fact, indoor tanning is totally out.
Well, that was a delightful young group. You know, it reestablishes my faith in the future of America when you meet a young man like Evan and a young lady like Sarah and their involvement in the theater. I don't know, I was just charmed by those people, and I really appreciate what they're doing. Worcester School, you know where it is. It's right near the Danbury Fair Mall back there, Saturday mornings, July 14th, 21st, and 28th. If you come at 10:30, I guarantee it'll be a very good value for the whole family. It looks like a wonderful thing, and I just got a kick out of those kids. Now, I'm joined by a group of guys that I don't get as big a kick out of. We have Larry Ditkoff.
Good to be back on the show, Marty, back here.
So glad you're here. We have political professor Jim Bolano. So glad you're here. And one of my favorite guys in the whole wide world, David Stevenson, who has promised me he's not going to bring his cat into the discussion.
Cat's under the table. He's going to claw your leg.
The cat can stay under the table, and I will kick the cat because this is a highly educated, vast audience that expects to have political analysis from this august panel, and feline cats have no place for that. That said, you and all your progressive friends are pretty giddy about this Supreme Court decision about Obamacare, or now affordable health care. What are your reactions to what the court said?
Anybody's really giddy about it. I think.
I've seen some giddy people.
Well, I don't know about that, because the bill was. It's actually the bill that actually passed was actually written by the Heritage Foundation between 1989 and 1994. It was the response, Republicans' response to what they termed Hillary Care, and it's a bill that they wrote, but as soon as it ended up being promoted by a Democratic president in Congress, it of course became the anathema of them.
Right? So what you're saying is, this seems to be the line. It's not the greatest bill in the world, but it's not really ours. The Heritage Foundation or Romney came up with it, and we're just going ahead with it now.
Well, it's far better than what we had, but certainly the only reasonable and tangible answer to the problem of America's health care dilemma is single payer.
Single payer?
Yeah.
Like we have it.
Like Medicare. Just like Medicare, except for Medicare for all.
Which is going bankrupt.
In 7 years?
Go ahead. I mean,
Well,
I just have I have a fundamental problem with the same people that run the Department of Motor Vehicle taking over 1/6 of the U.S. economy and taking a healthcare system that is the envy of the world and turning it into some sort of government.
But it's not.
If it isn't the envy of the world, why do premiers of provinces in Canada come to America for health?
Marty, there's no question that
Americans go overseas to get their health care for certain ailments and illnesses.
That's true.
Like what?
That's true. There was
some vague Swiss sex change operation.
No.
Like
There's certain procedures.
They go to the Caribbean.
No. For example, something like an off-label procedure that hasn't been approved here in the United States. People will go abroad. To Mexico and France.
Whoa! Time
But that's the FDA.
Now,
that's the government.
Me that an American goes to Mexico to have some sort of health.
It was for cheap. Yeah, I'll Google. I'll
for
email
non-FDA.
the New York Times. Yeah, for the New York Times.
Oh, we're talking steroids, San Diego Padres.
No.
Now I understand.
No, Marty.
You're right. They do go to Mexico for
Marty,
healthcare.
look. The question isn't that the quality of the physicians in the United States is low. The question is that the United States spends, more or less about 20% of GDP on health care. No other civilized nation spends more than 11%. Why is that? And one of the things that the Affordable Care Act...
Because we have more MRI machines in suburban Washington, D.C. than Canada does have across the entire nation.
Is that an indictment on MRI machines?
No, I think it's an an absolute glorification of the United States healthcare system, where you have enough money in the system where you can have MRI machines galore, but when you go to socialized medicine and they begin to ratchet down and control the ability and access to medicine, all of a sudden you don't have enough MRI machines.
Funny, because all those other countries, and I think it's about 30 or 32 of them, longevity of life, greater longevity than America, all of them, lower infant mortality rate, all of them.
See, I disagree with that too. I think the judging of infant mortality rate has more to do with reporting. There's some of these countries where infant mortality rates are not necessarily accurately reported. They are in America. I would put American healthcare, as it stands right now, before we go down this socialized medicine thing, as absolutely world class. The Mayo Clinic in Minneapolis, I'm telling you, that's
Marty, I don't think that's the issue here.
5% of Americans.
The issue isn't that there aren't high quality physicians here. The issue is to what extent that people on the lower edge of the economic spectrum have access to quality health care. That's the issue. It's not, no one says, oh yeah, American doctors, they're terrible. That's not the case, or the quality of the hospitals is poor. The question is, you have a boatload of people out there, who are, sick, can't necessarily afford the level of health care that is needed. You look at the Affordable Care Act, and I mentioned this, when I've been on the show previously. By the way, just one quick aside, I want to thank Jim. He called me out on something about the Ryan Act, not Ryan Act, the Ryan budget, about people over 55 now would not be covered by, but be covered by the previous plan. Right. You were right on that. You were right on that. I appreciate you bringing this to my attention.
I believe that your progressive friends put together a TV ad showing someone looked like Congressman Ryan pushing an old person in a wheelchair off a cliff.
Well,
so you're redacting that?
No, well, look, it's a terrible budget. Don't get me wrong.
It's a terrible ad, too.
Was that Paul Ryan or was that Willie Horton?
I don't know, but I think
Al Gore was the first to raise Willie Horton, just for the record there, anyway. But yeah.
Well, Willie, yeah.
No, Willie Horton was with Dukakis.
Right, but Al Gore raised it before it was raised by Bush 41 in the campaign. Absolutely.
Much like right now, the Republicans are using Hillary Clinton in their ads against Obama because in the primary campaign she brought some good things.
About the decision, I'm going to take.
Yes, please. I mean, I guess we own it now.
The center-right silver lining view of the decision. Number one, 5 justices ruled that the mandate was unconstitutional under the Commerce Clause.
Yes.
That put a break on that Commerce Clause, which this court has done over the past 15, 20 years anyway, which was wide open for decades and decades after the New Deal. Number 2, 7 justices, including, I guess it was Kagan and Breyer, correct me if it wasn't those 2, ruled that the states could not be compelled to adopt the Medicaid the Medicaid exchange provisions, if I'm misspeaking it.
No, already Texas is going, hell no, I'm not going to take that money.
Without losing their general Medicaid funds. And that's 7 of them. So, I mean, sure, Roberts opened the door under the taxing clause, but the door has been open under the taxing clause. And he basically said, this is a political decision, so it's up to the voters to rein in on taxes. But the other 2 issues, and the Commerce Clause, I think, was paramount. But watch how many states opt out.
You know, one of the things that I want to discuss opting out, pursuant to the law, the United States, the feds were going to cover 100% of the cost of Medicaid for people who were previously uninsured for, and correct me, Dave, if I'm wrong, it's for a year, and then it's 90% after that. You know, a lot of these red states, and you know, you mentioned Rick Perry with the hell no, I'm all, what is it, all hat, no cattle, or all cattle?
Something about
I don't know, however they talk.
All I know is that he had a brain freeze and couldn't remember one of the administration.
No, things he was going to close. I know, but putting that, putting that aside, if he has all these uninsured poor Texans in his state, wouldn't he want to adopt the Medicare exchanges? Or is it he's going to put the politics of, I can't have anything that President Obama's for, even though it helps my people, because, you know, I'm not a governor. You know, I'm really a politician. And that's really
I think a lot of the states feel like it's going to bankrupt their states if they have to take on all these uninsured. That's what I think.
The feds, 100% of the cost for year 1, 90%. Year 2, it's something like that. It's predominantly, you know, at the federal level.
I understand that. Thankfully, we have a president and a political party that are going to take care of all of us, and everything will be taken care of. There'll be a chicken in every pot. Every health care bill will be paid. Every house, if you're getting foreclosed on, don't worry. They have a program for that. They're going to make everything fine. And I just feel so wonderful that the nanny state is going to take care of all my needs and everything's going to be perfect because they say it's so.
Marty,
I'm not going to focus on the fact that 42 cents out of every dollar they spend has to be borrowed from another country. I'm just going to put that out of my mind because someone on television said, don't worry, everything's going to be taken care of.
You know, Marty, are you familiar with Milos Forman? He's a director. He did Normal Ray, some other. He's a pretty well-known guy, and he wrote an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal, that bastion of American communism, you know, saying Obama's a socialist. He goes, I'm from the Czech. Well, now it's a Czech Republic. It was Czechoslovakia when he was living there. He said, you people who call Obama a socialist, you don't have any idea of what you're talking about.
Well, he's not a successful socialist.
No, he's not a socialist.
But he's an ideological.
Show me where there is a successful
He's a Euro-socialist. There's no doubt he'd like to say, you guys talk about the type of care you guys were just talking about going overseas, so you would embrace a Swedish model of health care, wouldn't you? So that's Euro-socialism.
Well, the John Birch Society described Dwight Eisenhower as being, well, amongst other things, a communist, and I guess, you know.
John Wayne, too.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Duke was a flaming communist. Yeah. Reagan, probably, too. I'm sure that they had a lot of things. But then again, you know.
Well, you know what Jeb Bush said? He goes, my father and Reagan would be, you know.
Oh, they'd be laughed out of the Republican Party nowadays.
Yeah.
Where would Harry Truman and John Kennedy be?
That's not Dave's quote. That's Jeb Bush's quote. He said, my father and Ronald Reagan would be deemed, you know, traitorous to Republican principles.
All right, so let me see if I got this straight. Yeah. What you're saying is anyone that would have a peep of criticism over the taking over of 1/6 of the U.S. economy by the federal government is somehow some right-wing wacko that's a member of the John Birch
Marty,
Society.
what taking over?
Well, you explain it to me. I'll just tell you what the Supreme Court said. Okay, we can start there. The Supreme Court said that the federal government is imposing its right to tax the population by saying you have to have this kind of health care, and we're going to regulate that. And we're going to expand the role of the IRS, and if you don't pay for your health care, guess what they're going to do? They're going to withhold your tax return.
That is false, Ronnie. Marty, that is absolutely false.
Really?
What they said, what the rules, if I may, Dave, what the rule says is if you don't pay, what the IRS can do is withhold a refund. They cannot
That's
go
what I
in
just
and charge.
said.
No, no, that's not what you said. You said the IRS is going to go in and assess, and assess you additional tax. The only thing
it's called a penalty. That's what they presented it as a penalty. And then when they argued at the case in front of the Supreme Court, he kept referring to it as a tax until one of the Supreme Court justices had to say, "You keep saying tax, don't you mean penalty?" It was, "Oh yeah, penalty, penalty." And then when they come out with their decision, they clearly say that the reason that this is constitutional is because it's a tax.
That's what Robert
And
said.
Congress has a right to levy taxes. So that's what they're doing. It's a tax. Own it. It's the truth.
Marty, you just said that the IRS
it's a semantics.
can go in and levy, garnish wages or levy against assets if you don't pay.
I never said anything like that. I said they can withhold your tax return. That's what I said.
Withhold your tax? What does that mean?
Well, when you get a refund from your taxes.
Withhold your tax refund.
That's
not what you said. I don't think that's what you said.
Okay,
but that's
that's what I'm saying. But I'm telling you, the government has got you over a barrel. Right now, when you get your...
No, you just reduce your withholding, Marty.
Well, okay, well, fine. I mean, again, the federal government is coming in and taking money out of your pocket that is rightfully you in the form of a refund because you paid your taxes, and they're going to make sure that you purchase health care or you're in one of these associations where you get your health care. That's it. Look, you should applaud this.
33
I thought big government is a good thing.
Marty, one of the... I know what I got to buy. When's your birthday, Marty?
October 27th.
Okay, it's coming up in a couple months.
That's right.
I got a present for you. I'm going to buy you a Bible.
He's got 14 different versions of the Bible.
I got Bible.com right here.
I'm going to highlight it for you because there's this thing about judging. About do not judge. And you shall not be judged. You constantly make...
That's New Testament. Marty's more of an Old Testament kind of guy. He likes the fire and brimstone.
I like the New Testament. I'm just a little concerned about the direction that this country is going.
Marty,
and frankly, I'm not impressed with the policies as far as it's reflected in the economy. Because I'm getting a little sick out of having this stagnant economy with 8.2% unemployment, with 50 million of my federal Americans on food stamps. And is it considered a bad thing to be on food stamps? Guess what? No, because our tax dollars are going to pay for radio and TV ads to say, "Come on, food stamps. Come on, the big government. We're going to take care of everything."
Free cell phones.
Was it better when we were hemorrhaging 700,000, 800,000 jobs a month after the crash of the economy back in August of 2008?
August 2008 was probably the worst economic catastrophe in our lifetime.
And looking back on that, using that as your yardstick, aren't we doing pretty well right now?
No, I don't think we're doing pretty well at all. As a matter of fact, it's the worst recovery after one of these economic downturns ever.
But you said yourself there's never been an economic downturn like it. So you got to start.
There was
a position of how bad it was.
I'm not saying it wasn't bad.
It wasn't the Republicans' fault. It was all of their faults because they all voted for that darn repeal of Glass-Steagall back in December of 2000, which is what caused the meltdown.
We're right back where we were.
Two guys, Barney Frank and Chris Dodd.
Did you see his
their bill brought back
Times?
some of Glass-Steagall.
Did Chris Dodd get married?
No,
Barney. Oh, what a wonderful. Good for him.
Well, Herbert Hoover probably said the same thing in 1932, and Jimmy Carter was saying the same thing in 1980. Hey, it's not that bad. We're turning it around. Give me another shot. People don't give him other shots when it happens.
No,
Obama's on track to be another Hoover and another Carter.
The thing is, under Hoover's watch,
and Bush 41 too. The economy went sour on him, and he got punished.
Yeah, it was nowhere near what happened in
1932 was a whole different.
It was a whole different.
In our lifetime, or in the lifetime of our grandparents.
And also, the economy went south. It was the roaring 20s when Hoover came in. It was January 29.
But he didn't blame Harding, and Coolidge like they're blaming Bush now.
Nobody blames Bush.
Nobody blames Bush.
Bush didn't put the law in. Bush didn't sign the bill that. They took Glass-Steagall out.
Well, Glass-Steagall wasn't the...
That was December 2000. Bill Clinton was still president.
Yeah,
well, they are blaming.
Well, look, the collapse that took place in August of 2008 was a result of giving mortgages to people that couldn't afford them, having Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac buy up those mortgages, so there was no
banks.
What's that?
Allowing banks to gamble with
bundle and sell them, for sure.
funds.
Well,
how come Obama hasn't prosecuted any of those people?
Yeah, well, how are you going to have fundraisers on Wall Street?
The AIG guy.
Oh,
because I can't believe he's not in jail.
But okay.
That's nothing. Okay.
Let's stipulate that we had an economic downturn. There was a collapse of epic proportions.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I lay the blame at Chris Dodd and Barney Frank, but that's my
their bill brought back much of Glass-Steagall. Just didn't bring back enough of it because the Republicans blocked a lot of the important.
They are now
features.
politically speaking on the ash heap of history, and they're welcome to it.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, though, you have a president who ran on the fact that we're going to get this thing turned around, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to print money, and we're going to have a bunch of public jobs that we're going to get out there. And we're going to prime the pump. We're going to get this economy going, and it hasn't happened. And he's had 4 years to do it. Now we have another candidate, Mitt Romney, who comes from the private sector and says, look, we're going to cut regulations, we're going to cut taxes, and we're going to let the private economy come back and fix this thing. We tried one, it hasn't worked. I'm going with Romney.
No, it's just the opposite.
There's a job creator for you.
Yeah, there's a job creator for you.
There's a job creator for you.
But
Governor of Massachusetts, 47th out of 50 states in job creation. He did in fact bring one very important and very good bill in. It was we could call it Romney Care if you'd like.
Okay.
Because that's in fact basically what we have with what we call Obamacare now.
But I mean, basically, Barack Obama, since the Supreme Court has said that it's a tax, it's the largest tax increase in the history, I think, of the world, actually. And the spending that we've seen the debt.
And people won't die.
Marty, do you get this stuff from Karl Rove? Does he call you personally? Because I got to tell you, 98% Karl Rove.
Oh, I heard of him.
Yeah. I tried to forget. Because 98%.
Turd Blossom.
98% of people, have private insurance. The percentage of the people who this is going to impact is stunningly stunningly low. Yet you have guys like McConnell, you have guys like Eric Cantor, guys like you, going on TV and essentially saying that this is a huge, tax increase. What they're using Robert's language to portray Obama as throwing out this huge tax increase to middle-class people. But in reality, didn't the president just come out and say he wanted to extend the Bush tax cuts for those making under $250,000? Yeah. Isn't he a guy?
Republicans don't care about those people. They want the millionaires.
Well, but he's had some blowback from his own party. Menendez in New Jersey said
they're entitled to their opinion.
Schumer also.
Yeah.
Because this is the problem when the federal government imposes somebody. What's right for New York, New Jersey, high tax, high cost of living areas, isn't the same for Wisconsin. You can't impose something nationally when it's better done by the states.
Marty, when you were talking with the theater group, and it was probably a more interesting discussion than this one, Dave, Jim, and I were talking, before.
More coherent.
And I was saying, have you heard Romney explicitly say why his act was good for mass and that it's not good for the state, for the feds? I've heard him say, well, what's good for Massachusetts isn't necessarily good for the federal government, but I haven't heard him give a reason. I have not heard Mitt Romney say, you know what, I made a bad call. I implemented this program, it didn't work, it was a bad call. I haven't heard him say that.
But he doesn't want the blame for it, though.
But I haven't heard him say that.
I don't think he's supposed to say it. He's supposed to say it's a 10th Amendment issue. I believe in limited federal government. Each state should decide what type of health care is right for that state. And that's what we did in Massachusetts, and I'm not going to impose it on Delaware.
He made it clear when the Supreme Court decision was announced. He said it was bad policy when it was implemented, and it's bad policy today. He didn't make the 10th Amendment argument, the states' rights argument. He made the argument that it was bad policy. Okay, but he made the argument that it was bad policy. I'd like to know why it was good policy for a state and bad policy for the federal government.
Well, that's not that unusual. I mean, there's gun laws that don't work in Manhattan that work perfectly fine in rural Kentucky.
I want a specific answer. Why it was good.
We'll get you that answer, but the fact of the matter is your guy and your party have been in office for 4 years. Things haven't gotten better at all. As a matter of fact, they've gotten worse.
Better than August 2008? It's not better. We're not better off as a country now, today, than we were in August of 2008.
Yeah, like I said, August 2008 was a cataclysmic collapse of the financial system.
And that continued on until, I think, about 4 or 5 months into the Obama administration, when some of the things that the Congress implemented, the policies started to kick in.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so basically you're saying, look, things are getting better, they're not getting better fast enough, but I'm sticking with this guy because everything's going to be fine in the end, and I've got this healthcare system that doesn't
I think he's done a good
go
job.
against me for pre-existing conditions.
Well, let me explain it to you, Marty.
That's essentially
on the
what you're
whole,
saying.
I think he's done a good job. He's also faced an obstructionist Congress that hasn't really allowed him to implement his
Only
model.
recently, because he had his party with supermajorities for the first 2 years.
But
No,
they
they had
always
59
filibuster
Democrats
block.
and Joe Lieberman who threatened to veto, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not veto, but filibuster anything that the Republicans didn't like, basically.
Yeah,
that was Joe
they've had
Lieberman.
they've had filibuster
Well,
power.
they had 60 votes. They had a filibuster proof until Ted Kennedy
Not when
died.
you've got Joe Lieberman as one of your 60.
Yeah, I mean, like the DREAM Act, for example.
It is a democracy.
No, well, wait a second. The DREAM Act, they had a Democratic Senate. Romney was making the point about, that he wasn't going to enforce deporting people who came here when they were under 16 years of age. And Romney said, well, it's bad policy. He had the chance. He had a Democratic Congress. But he didn't because he couldn't get the votes for the Senate because they couldn't get it to
Caller, do you have a question for our august panel? Quickly.
Yeah, I'd like to make 3 points. First point I'd like to make is if whoever believes that the unemployment rate on national average is 8.2% is a fool.
That's how we've been measuring
It's really going to be about 16 to 19% on the average, and in some areas it's lower than that and it's higher than that.
Close to 50% for minority youth, but go ahead.
And on health care, the IRS does not have the funding to enforce the mandate on a nationally.
From your lips to God's ears, last point, quickly.
They don't have the funding to take everybody to court. They have to sue everybody. And also the health care plan written as is does not address the rising cost of health care.
No doubt, which is all tort reform, which will never change
Not true,
because
Marty.
the
Let's have him on the- let's have him on the show.
Trial Lawyers
Marty,
Association.
no, but that's not true, Marty. There are accountable care organizations in the so-called Obamacare Act
So
that
the
do address
government's
costs.
going to take over and costs are going to
No.
go down.
The
I got
Marty-
a bridge in Brooklyn I want to
Marty,
sell you.
Marty, well, fortunately, Marty, you don't have an ill grandmother who you need to take care of.
Actually, I do. And
Well,
I
then
think
you're-
that
then-
I have an ill
well, then you-
grandmother in America, and I have an ill grandmother
Well, then
in
then
Canada where they
you
have
should be
socialized
then you
medicine.
should be very
And the one in
grateful.
Canada was
Then you
left
should be-
out in the
then
hallway
you
of the
should be very
hospital in a
grateful for
wheelchair.
Barack Obama then.
Not at all.
I'll
I'd much
expect-
rather have an ill. I'd much rather have an ill
I'll
grandmother
be
in
expecting
America.
a check to his campaign, Marty.
Okay, you just check the mail. Larry Ditkoff is here, Professor Jim Bolano, and David A. Stevenson with your cat. Quickly.
The cat's here.
Basil.
And Mitt Romney's here, too.
And Mitt Romney's
The
here.
cat says,
Join
watch the
us
show.
next week. Next week we're having a high-powered economist who's going to come on and say how you can survive in this economy. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next week right here. It's free television. What else are you going to do on a Thursday night?
You always get the truth.
Yep.